All right, welcome. This is an important part of our journey in a data-driven career. Today, I'm hanging out at Starbucks, so it might be a little bit noisy today, so please bear with me on the noise. But today, what we're going to focus on in the process of a data-driven career is the expectations of others, and specifically what I call career gatekeepers. These are the people that have tremendous influence over your career. So the first few sessions, we focused on what you expect, where you currently are, making an honest assessment. And what's the delta in between, and how do you get from point A to point B? And now we're going to move on to what other people expect that have influence on your career, why that's important, and what you need to do. So what is an expectation? An expectation is set the measurable belief of what somebody thinks should be happening, and sometimes what people think should be happening really only exists in their head. And there could be a measurable goal that's stated and written down and everybody could see it, but there could also be additional expectations that people have in their heads that we are judged against. And another important thing to note about expectations, you can lose a lot of momentum in your career when you focus on what you expect from other people. So let's say if you expect a promotion and you come to every conversation at work expecting a promotion, this can significantly change the outcome and also change your level of motivation, especially when these things are not happening. It's not a good mental health standpoint to focus on what you expect of others, but it's much better to understand what others expect of you and other things, and to tap into those things and to really leverage them to be successful. So what exceeds expectations? Essentially measurably and demonstrating that you can go beyond what's in the person's head, the story in their head, and you can quantify that. You can also qualify that. And why exceed an expectation? Because ultimately, if you deliver more than what somebody expects, they become an advocate. They change from a gatekeeper, an influencer, to an advocate, someone that will be in places to talk about you and talk about your leadership when you're not even there. So going above targets and consistently doing it is what really gets you acceleration. I already talked a little bit about this, but they'll have expectations of you, and you can fight it out in your head if those things are right or not, but I would say just embrace them and leverage them. But they also have expectations of other things, people, and think about ways that you can work to understand what that might be, and ultimately how you can leverage that in your plan. So career gatekeepers, who are they? I showed this ecosystem of expectations, and we exist in it, our team exists with the expectations. They have expectations, we have expectations. It's always not this kind of like dotted line from one group to the next. It could be multi-dimensional, three-dimensional, and we're sitting in the middle of this three-dimensional ecosystem of expectations. It could be your manager, it could be skip level managers, it could be a broader team, perhaps peers, or the skip level manager, or even a skip level manager, head of a business unit, president. It could be cross-functional. Say you're in marketing, maybe you have influencers, career gatekeepers, leaders, and sales that you have to influence, that maybe you need to get their advocacy for in order for you to move forward in your career in that job, or even beyond, doing some accomplishments that you could put on your resume that can help you to get roles outside of the company that you're looking for. And of course, customers, especially when you're customer facing or centric organization, you're going to be one of your main career gatekeepers. If you can keep customers happy and you can drive revenue, customers are happy, customers are getting value and using the solutions that you're creating, they're going to spend more money with the company. If you have direct responsibility and accomplishment for doing that, they're your career gatekeepers, and you can help to change them to advocates. Also, your partners. These could be companies that your firm works with or that your team works with, that mutually together you serve the mutual customers. And then even in a broader sense, it gets a little more complex and abstract, different expectations of society and governments. How can you help all the different groups within the ecosystem of expectations to exceed the expectations of society. For example, there's certainly corporate responsibility expectation of society. You can help your business to exceed that expectation of society. It can be extremely consequential in terms of the type of accomplishment you deliver, which then can really further accelerate your career. And the thing about expectations and a clear difference between expectations and goals. Goals are often written down and everybody can see, and maybe it's your goal, you look at a piece of paper or you share it with your team. But expectations are the stories in our heads. And often as people, we are social and emotionally driven. We judge others and other things and ourselves by these expectations that we set. So it's a little bit nuanced from goals. Remember, you exist in this ecosystem of expectations. You have your own, other people have. Everybody has expectations of one another, things. So it's important for you to collect data and investigate and be a researcher to uncover these things, and then to tap into them, leverage them, and be successful, change the trajectory of your career. This is essentially why they're important. These hidden stories could be goals, which could not be. Once you understand them, you tap into them, it's like you get a true buy-in from this person. You collect data around what somebody expects or what exceeds the expectation, and then you deliver it 2 weeks later, 2 months later, whatever the time frame is. It's like they're already pre-bought into it because you've discussed it, you know what it is, and then you hit it or you exceed it. It's like they already agreed that you did a great job because you got that pre-buy-in. And this is why they're important. Like understanding them gets you that pre-buy-in. It gives you the direction in which you should focus on in terms of being able to accelerate your career. It takes a lot of the mystery out of it. You might have your own expectations, and why should you align? Well, we discussed in the first couple of modules things about our own expectations. A lot of our expectations are driven by intrinsic motivation. So if you can find ways to align your expectations to others' expectations that are consequences of your career, you're going to be highly motivated to deliver on their expectations as well, not only yours. That's why it's important to align. Exceeding expectations. I think people generally would be satisfied when somebody meets an expectation. I expected you to do that. You did a great job. You consistently do that. Great, reliable. But you've gone above and beyond, and you consistently go above and beyond with your accomplishments. That kind of consistency is what really drives the acceleration. We just talked about that. And ultimately, through this process, this is a data collection process. You want to get those stories out of their heads and documented. Maybe sometimes they don't even realize it themselves, and you may find that when you have these conversations, they're quite profound. People might say, you've been asking some really great questions here, which that in turn, that consulting skill also builds your leadership brand. And just one thing at the bottom here that I want to know, a metaphor that I like to use for myself is, I see like the ecosystem of expectation of like an ocean. And this doesn't just apply to expectations. There's other things in businesses and like that similar to this. If you expect to be treated some way, or let's say to get that promotion, if you have expectations of others and how they should be interacting with you versus tapping into what they expect, kind of fighting the ocean, right? Because there's many more expectations shaping and influencing your career beyond yours. So instead of fighting that, then I'm not saying not being authentic and not sticking up for yourself. That's something different. Don't fight that. Surf the wave. Collect the data. Learn what the expectations are. Take out your surfboard, which is your career plan, and ride that wave. This is how we make acceleration easier, and it's very planned and detailed, and you're targeting the right things. So how to collect the data, and I'll walk through this in the demo on the worksheet. So again, you can either infer, think about all the different stakeholders, career gatekeepers that you may want to convert into career advocates, and think about what their expectations are, what exceed their expectations. So you can run through this in your mind and then make some notes on this based on your experience with these people. You could ask them directly. So set up a time to have a chat, ask them questions about what they expect from you, from the job, from the business, from all different areas, and collect these data points. Ask them about what exceeds, look at the columns and matrix, construct some questions that you could ask to get that information. You could also ask it indirectly. So let's say we're working on a specific project, and you might want to ask like what they expect in terms of success for the project. And you can ask them like, why is that important? That is the expectation of you, or that's what exceeds the expectations. And that's more about the project, not necessarily the expectations of you. So you can kind of get around to getting those answers indirectly. And then finally, you can review different types of resources, perhaps in emails that the stakeholders have sent out, or documentation they put together, presentations they put together, maybe they're speaking publicly. Maybe regardless of what the goals are, you can infer additional information from these documents and these other materials to help to understand what their expectations are. But at the end of the day, asking directly, face-to-face, is the best way to collect the data, because two things, it's coming directly from them. And when they say it, they could be realizing it or validating it in their own mind as they say it. And they're also setting the expectation with you and what exceeds expectations before you even start to do the work. And if you pick to work on those things and you deliver them and it exceeds expectations, they've already bought into this is what exceeds expectations, and you've done it. So you have that pre-commitment there. So I'll cover these points in the form demo as well. So when you go into the worksheet, you're going to go through these different steps. You're going to be evaluating your skills. You're going to look at the different expectations when you collect the data and understand which skills, in terms of ones you have or the ones you need to acquire. You could either assign the ones that you have or the ones that you need to acquire. You can make note that you need to acquire them in order to exceed the expectation. Or another way to look at it is, if you work on this, you will get certain skills that you want in terms of your milestones. I talked about alignment earlier, and that has a lot to do with intrinsic motivation. So when you look at the different tasks and expectations and exceeding expectations, which of these things are you intrinsically motivated to do? And that will increase the probability that you deliver on these things. In the Pro program, I talk more, excuse me, I talk more about motivation and how to tap into motivation, which helps to increase completion rates of tasks, as well as making tasks easier. And I'll go into that in the next module a little bit. But once you get to the start, get going to the Pro program, which you'll have access to. And I go much more into detail across 6 different habits. You'll want to check that out to gain more success. And then, of course, there's certain things that are just going to have to be done, regardless if you're motivated or not. There are going to be certain required expectations. So think about that when you're deciding which expectations you want to choose. And ultimately, our choice of expectations is going to be the plan that you have for yourself in order to accelerate your career based on the data that you're collecting. Excuse me. I'm going to take a drink here. All right, there we go. And again, look at the other worksheets. Look at the milestones that you set for yourself and the skills, compare them to the possible skills that you can gain, and help that in terms of making the decision of the expectations that you're going to focus on and to achieve. So at the end of the day, you want to choose the tasks that you can likely exceed expectations on and gain some skills or use existing skills in order to get the accomplishments that you wanted to deliver that consistent success, as defined by exceeding expectations. And this plan is not set in stone. You can change it as things change. Expectations might change over time, and the project or initiative can completely change. So look at this document as a living document that you continuously update as you're getting data and information through either interviews or resources or through the course of work. Consciously monitor what the expectations are and make adjustments. All right, so that covers our career gatekeepers and wanting to convert them into advocates because of their influence on your career and their ability to influence others in regards to our career. And what you need to do in order to source that data, put it in your plan, and to create your plan. Watch the demo video where I'm going to go through the worksheet and show you how to put the data in and tell you what the columns mean. And then we will start to move into the fourth and fifth steps, which focus on execution in the next video. All right, I'll see you in the next video.